Welcome, everybody, to the Alter Ether podcast. My name is Lisa Richards, and Alter Ether is about empowering you to transform the world. And today's guest is a leader in the field of transformation. Welcome, Derek Grosskurth, otherwise known as TruthSeekah.
Hey, my friend, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Derek, for being here. Many of us are born into a preset religion. And we're taught not to venture off that path. They teach us it's bad. Um, but that's never made sense to me. And I'm sure it hasn't to you either. There's over 4,000 religions in the world, and each have their own set of beliefs, many of them damning non-believers to their version of hell. So, which that's the biggest part that doesn't make sense to me. How can that be true? If it was true, then obviously we're all in hell, right? It just doesn't make sense. So, like you, curiosity got the best of me. And I ventured down many paths in my life searching for the real answers. But you've been way more adventurous than I have, and you've delved deep into a lot of different paths. Can you share like some of the most profound experiences and paths that you've actually went down and what happened to you when you did?
Yeah, I started out as I would say, misguided teen, looking into the paranormal and the supernatural, because I had experiences as a child, and so that just led me towards that path. Looking into, watching movies and things like that that were paranormal and supernatural thrillers and stuff like that, and asking the deeper questions, which led me down the path early on of the occult, of the dark side of it, the negative, from being a misguided teen and youth without much direction or anything like that, and still like living a life that wasn't conducive to, somebody that maybe should be looking into that kind of stuff. I was into gang activity and stealing and robbing people, and just I wasn't a good person, misguided. And so I got into witchcraft and tried to find ways to consult spirits as a teenager, and started doing a bunch of different rituals and trying to open up portals and doorways to talk to spirits, because I knew people who could, and they were good at it. And so I wanted to get good. So I kind of went out there reckless doing that stuff and opened up some type of portal in my home, in my mind, where um stay for a couple months trying to do all these spells, and like none of them worked until all of a sudden they all worked at the same time, and I didn't know how to turn it off. So that was a very scary point in my life, and it didn't last long, because I don't think I would be here, if it did. And it was just maybe 2 weeks where it was like wide open, if that. And very scary experience where they would pull me in and out of trances, and I'd hear them speaking in foreign languages, and you have like 17 of them trying to get your attention and talk to you at the same time, because they see you as this open door conduit.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the most profound experiences in my seeking journey. And I made it out of that. I ended up getting help, and I knew that I was going to go to a psychiatric ward or something like that if I was to reach out and tell somebody. So I ended up reaching out to the phone book and calling a bunch of churches, telling them that I feel like I'm demon possessed and I needed somebody to talk with me or to pray with me, and called like 17 churches. One church called me back and pastor ended up coming to my house to pray with me and my girlfriend. And I essentially got rid of everything overnight, because I was having like a panic attack thing. Woke up the next morning feeling a little bit better, and just knew I had to rededicate my life to God and to Christ, to get back on that path that they told me not to get off of, kind of thing. So it's like, maybe they were right in some degree. I was 15, you know, and So all of that came full circle. But as far as like looking down paths, that would be one of the most profound because it gave me a sense of contrast of where like how bad it can get,
Yeah,
and also how good it can get. So now there's like this idea of balance and the true narrow path that, Christianity and other traditions talk about, walking this fine line or this highway where you're not getting too far off to the right or too far to the left, but you're bringing about balance in the midst of both sides, light and darkness. So yeah, I've studied and experienced so much, but I would say that was, that shapes me and makes me who I am. And I'm grateful that I made it out, that I can reach out and help people that feel called to that kind of stuff or to that realm, but don't have guidance in the midst of that, So it's not to demonize all of it or whatever, it's to do it the right way.
absolutely. It was a benefit to you for a lot of people. You're going to rescue a lot of people just by those experiences that you had. I really feel that those people who are dabbling in the darkness, not necessarily religion wise, but the drugs and the alcohol, they are not just dealing with the drugs and the alcohol. They're opening up that doorway for the demons to come in. And
Mhm.
they are fighting the demons as well, not just their personal demons, but other demons that like those types of energies. That's why
Yeah.
it's hard for them to get off of those types of things. I used to like watching scary movies. And it wasn't until I realized that even though I wasn't physically living that movie, I actually kind of was, because it
Yeah.
was creating the same feelings and that same as if I were in that scary movie. So I actually stopped watching scary movies, and that's one of the things that I think really helped me on this journey, because I only gravitate towards things that with a like energy, so to speak. Whereas when you were younger, you were dabbling with a lot of bad things. So that energy gravitated you more towards, the demons. You could hear the demons calling more, you know?
Yeah, and I didn't know there was a full circle where you can hear the angels, where
Yes.
there's the right way to do it and a right lifestyle that should be conducive with um, any type of spiritual work, if you will. So I look at it where I just the door, the portal opened up, and I got to see the types of spirits that I was entertaining,
Yeah.
which anyone can do. And if you're living a good life and you're helping people and all that kind of stuff, you're going to see something different. So that's where this idea of the fear and telling people to stay away and all that kind of stuff comes in is, it is conducive to the life that you're living. And
Yeah.
I'm a living example.
Yeah, exactly. Calling on the right team, it's going to make you unstoppable if when you do. When I had my first reading from a medium, I left there feeling like I had a team of my loved ones and spirit following me all the time, and literally the very next day I was walking a dog and I heard in my mind to stay on this side of the street. And I did. And a truck came screaming around the corner and slammed into the bank across the street, right where me and the dog would have been walking. So I know that they're with me all the time. And, we have free will, just like God says, just in the Bible, like in the Bible. And it's not until we call upon those teams, whether it be demons or whether it be angels or our loved ones in spirit, that they're going to come to us. But we can easily close that call off too if we pick up the wrong connection, just like you did.
Hmm.
What do you think about exorcisms? Do you think they really help people in that situation? Or do you think more of just like praying? I ask because I know a lot of people that I really think probably need one.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And I think it's more common than we think, like, because even the idea of an exorcism um, is like, when it gets bad,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, you need to see somebody. Versus, and it can help a lot of people. But usually you're only going to see a person getting an exorcism when they're just full of demons or the symptoms are showing and they can't stop or turn it off kind of thing. But even more practical with the idea of exercising, right? As something that you're exercising and it's a part of your routine. It's a part of your maintenance that you take care of your body, that you take care of your spirit. that you take care of what you're entertaining. Like you said, I'm not watching those movies. There's countless stories online of people watching scary movies and some type of demonic impartation through cinema and through
Yeah.
these screens and black mirrors that they're gazing into of the television, where something comes through and it visits them in the night, whether it's in a dream or literally in their room. So, with that being said, just an idea of exercising yourself daily and taking inventory of what's in you, how you feel, how's your, how, you know, how's your thoughts, how's your diet, and to become aware of that, and then to find um, easy routines and things that you can do to get that stuff out of you, or to make the course correction so it doesn't actually become a part of you. So I'd say on like a big scale of exorcisms of like, somebody who's full of unclean spirits or demons, if you will, but more so on a smaller level that we could take inventory and sage and cleanse and, you know, fumigate our houses. Literally, our body is a house.
Yeah, yeah. Our house, when we moved in here, it was my uncle's old home that he built about 30 years ago, and he committed suicide here. And then his kids were addicted to drugs, and they had a lot of friends here partying, overdosing, this and that. So there was a lot of negative energy here. And I was had been in communication with my uncle to make sure it was okay with him, through spirit, that he was okay with me being here. And he said that it would be nice to have a good energy here for once. So I was,
Mhm.
my daughter and I cleansed the home. I saged it. We used sound frequencies and things like that. And then I always tell people, I have a different version on protection, like most people do, because we all have that spark of God inside of us. So I think when we sage and do things like that for so-called protection, it's kind of putting it out there in the universe that we don't feel protected in the first place. And if you do it once, it's fine. But when you continually are obsessive with sage, sage, sage every day, or this or that, to me, it's like keeps telling the universe, I'm not protected. I'm not protected. When we just can enhance that spark inside of us, I feel it just blasting around and surrounding me with protection at all times. And that's the power that God gave us. We have that spark of Him inside of us. So that's what I use for protection.
Hmm. Yeah. So that you do, yeah, you're taking inventory. You're making sure that your light is shining so
Yeah.
bright that anything that comes near it that's not good is, maybe gonna get transformed just by standing next to you.
Yeah, exactly. But going back to the scary movies, I would feel like something was following me when I'd be going up the stairs, or I'd go out or somebody was looking through the window at me afterwards. And it most likely there probably was, not a physical person, but something that was attached to that
Yeah,
scary
I
energy.
it's a big it's a big a big debate. It's a big deal about scary movies. For the longest time, I mean I try to go back to them and revisit them, and I did for many years. And there's some good info in some of those movies, right? Especially exorcism movies, to be honest with you. Um, and I kind of would say that I'm watching those as a researcher, because I was like, there was a lot of deep stuff in some of these exorcism of Emily Rose and all this kind of stuff. And I don't really watch them anymore now, but it's kind of recent, to be honest with you. But we did have a experience several years ago when my daughter was still young, and that was our thing. We'd watch scary movies together, and we ended up watching the movie. It was a movie called Witch, and it was like from an ex witch, if you will. Like it was like real witchcraft, like real, like you can tell that there was magic and there was forces that were summoned, if you will, behind the movie for it to be successful and to scare people and to, hey, let's show them real witchcraft. And it was a movie that we watched, and afterwards it was so like nasty and demonic. Like my daughter's, I mean, I don't even know how old she was, probably like 11 or something. she's just like freaking out, screaming, crying, and you can feel just this nasty presence in my home. I was like, oh, I messed up, man. God, dog, taking the liberty to watch this movie and knowing that I have a past and I know this stuff's real, and we watch this movie and that energy is in the home. Yeah, you got to be careful. And so better safe than sorry, and not watch them at all.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Why don't you tell people about the other paths that you've been down because you've found some really beautiful ones as well?
Um, it's kind of hard to say paths, because it's my path, right? So
Yeah.
my path led me to different schools of thought. And so as I became a Christian again after having that wild deep dive into Satanism and witchcraft and all that, the dark side. Became a Christian. That was in September of 2000, and rededicated my life. And I didn't want anything to do with anything that resembled any of that. I mean, I couldn't be around it. It was really a form of PTSD that I had because that stuff was so dark and I barely made it out. So I didn't want anything to, you know, I couldn't be around anything that reminded me of it. It would trigger me of like fear, panic would set in. If I
Mm.
smelled alcohol or pot or even heard old music or even smelled incense, like that's how
Oh,
triggered
yeah.
I was. So you can tell, like when just browsing YouTube or anything, all these Christians who were like adamantly against anything that looks like quote unquote new age. That was me. So for several years, just getting into church and doing Christian stuff and learning through that, I ended up a lot of the stuff that I was studying in witchcraft came full circle because I didn't know that there was a right way and a wrong way to, be a psychic or whatever the case is. Like psychic abilities aren't good or bad. There's
Mhm.
people who know things and they're using it for good or bad. So it's the person and the spirit of the person that makes the thing good or bad. So all of it came full circle that I was able to see in the Bible, and I was led to certain ministries who like really keyed in on this stuff, on the good way to do it, how Jesus did it, and how the disciples did it, and how the prophets did it, and that was awesome for me because I got to dive into so-called, psychic abilities. They wouldn't call them that. They call them prophetic abilities or spiritual gifts. And so there's the language
Yeah.
barrier that comes in because it is the same thing. It's absolutely the same thing. So I was led to that, dove into that for years and been part of churches and ministries that practice it and teach it and equip it. It's amazing. Then I got a little bit more militant in my pursuit of truth and wanted to looking at uh, Christianity of today and how it just doesn't resemble, biblical Christianity. And I wanted what they had. I didn't want to settle for like a substitution of like they had the real deal. We're here pretending, that we're doing what they're doing kind of thing. And so that just led me to this deeper pursuit of looking at a bunch of different sects of Christianity. And most of them were like extreme sects, but it was cool because I was able to learn. I was able to practice it and meet these people and dive in to really absorb what I needed from it. And I would eventually find, bad stuff or that they were, using people, all that kind of stuff. And so I'd back out but I would absorb and keep the good stuff. And I'll tell you the truth, like even like a lot of that stuff could be darker than the so-called witchcraft stuff that I experienced being
Oh,
possessed by
absolutely.
demons and things. Like some of the stuff because it's pretending to be virtuous. It's pretending to be because we automatically give it a pass
Mhm.
because it's a preacher, because it's Christian, or because they use the Bible. And people know that, so they hide behind that and become wolves in sheep's clothing. So, I went through several different schools of thought, Hebrew Israelites and Messianic Judaism and um, stuff like that. But I've been able to kind of come full circle to where I am today and to keep all the good stuff from it. I was taught how to study the scriptures through the Israelites, able to um, kind of sensibly look at the holes in their belief systems that would become like really popular on the internet and mess up a lot of people. So I can be a voice of reason because I've been through it, kind of thing. With all those paths, the witchcraft and the, extreme Christian stuff or whatever, to be a voice of reason. So all that come full circle to really where I am today of just finding God in all things and seeing him in or it in places and people that we were taught that he or it is not, or she, you know, and that grows daily. So to become more spiritual and seeing spirituality in the Bible, seeing, really seeing all religions in the Bible at this point. But that was a process too, to get to. But I love it. I still I believe in words and terms and modalities, and you know we're not just making it up as we go. There's stuff that's there for a reason to use language, and but also understand that that language separates us too. So to be kind of wise in working with the languages and being able to speak multiple languages, if you will, when it comes to truth.
Some religions are kind of hidden, the darkness of them, but they're portrayed as light.
Yeah.
I traveled to Rome several years ago, and I just felt a deep darkness, suffering and pain everywhere. And I took a trip to Pompeii, a bus ride to Pompeii, and our tour guide was, telling us things on the way to Pompeii. And one of the paths from Pompeii all the way to Rome, this is where once Spartacus's gladiators were captured, was a crucified warrior all the way to Rome, for all 4,000 of them. Like, how can you see any light in anything like that? It's no wonder I felt so much darkness. Not only the whole the whole time I was there, it was just dark. It felt dark everywhere. And I didn't even go to the Vatican. I could only imagine if I would have went there, how crazy that would be. What goes on in the underneath there, or we don't even know, I'm sure, the depths of what really happens in a lot of these places. But we do have a lot of tools to help us along the way. And some of those get demonized too, like the pyramid energy, that I am an advocate of pyramid power, and it's good for a lot of different things. And what kind of tools do you use to help you though? Like, crystals. I know you talk about crystals a lot,
Yeah.
essential oils, and I'd like to get into psilocybin if you can touch on that too.
Yeah. No, like everything's a tool, you know,
Yep.
just how you use it and how it's here to assist or how it uses you and to connect with it. Divination, so like being a part of our practices and stuff and just being one with all things, being
Mhm.
able to use natural things that are around to hear and see what they're saying, because God has a message that is like concealed in everything. Or not just a message, but messages that would take a lifetime really to dive into. And I want to, so and how do we listen? How do we hear? Because everything speaks. It just doesn't use language. It doesn't speak audibly. And
Mhm.
so it's to learn the language and how everything's communicating. Um, I personally like to find things in the Bible first, nuanced, if you will, because most of it is under a different name or something like that now that would be easy to demonize when you call it something else, crystals as well, a big one, magical wands and staffs and stuff like that, like all the cool stuff, all the Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah.
That's in the Bible, that people would never know, like casting lots and making decisions and communicating with angels. But again, how? It's the how. Which angels? So, we gaze at the sun a lot, gazing at light, and different spectrums of light, and are, able to get messages and to see things many different ways, whether you're seeing something that your eyes dilate to allow more light in so that you can see other things that other people can't see. That's amazing. Um, Looking at things that light up after stargazing that stand out to you, that glow, a lot of really interesting stuff. Gazing at the sun's reflection in water is a form of divination, a form of scrying. It's amazing, whether it's in a river or in a bowl with water in it. Um, but just being aware of everything around you at all times, sitting under the tree and meditating, listening to and allowing the birds to sing over you to bring forth healing and peace and calming. Like there's so many tools that it's overwhelming and they're all beautiful. And so to be able to salute them and to listen and um to their song, to their message that glorifies the creator of all. Even the demons, the dark ones, I learned their song early on, and it's a more aggressive song, and but it has a meaning that also glorifies their creator, that they don't get to exist without that creator that has a purpose for them, and they served a great purpose. So, how do we utilize that purpose? How do we you know, change the way that we look at our relationship with them? That's a tool, a very healthy tool to look back at your past and to make peace with it. Because coming out of that stuff with the PTSD stuff, there was no way. I didn't want nothing to do with it. All of it's demonic. Crystals, incense.
Yep.
Oh, incense or like the priests burn incense in the Bible. It was a reason for, cleansing an area, charging an area, or even just our connection to smell the fragrance and the aroma, and that relaxes your body so that you can go into trance, that you can meditate, that you can have a peaceful night's sleep. We're like in relationship with all of the elements. So it's so fun. I mean, all of those things that I'm mentioning are a part of, my daily life. Um, and there's so much more, so much more that you start forgetting. I'm gonna tie this in with the incense thing or the sage thing is where like, someone who is just always burning sage or whatever all the time trying to neutralize an area, because I do believe that that's what it neutralizes, and then you have to charge it with intention kind of thing. Um, the beautiful thing is that we have so many that we don't have to wear out the welcome of something or it loses its ritualistic significance in our lives. So we got all of these things of this huge tool belt. Like, okay, I'm gonna use this for that, and I'm gonna use this.
Mhm.
Same way with incense, like certain kinds, like certain ones when I want to go deep into trance, smelling the aroma and knowing what it was used for in antiquity, that okay, this only comes out when there's an exorcism, where I need to go into trance and help assist to get it out.
Mhm.
When I smell it, my body knows, okay, time to time to focus. Like I'm telling the members of my whole body and go in, or sage or frankincense. And there's just so many tools that we have, and I'm just in awe of Mother Nature and our connection with her. It doesn't matter where you go. It's not the thing that is demonic or the thing that is out of order, because nature is in natural order. It's us that's out of order with it. So when we can get back in the flow and remember our connection, that's when everything comes to life again for you. And you're welcome back into that relationship with the sun, with the moon, with the stars, with the earth, with the demons, with everything. And it's a salute, it's a I see you.
Yeah, absolutely. I am so a nature advocate. I love being out in nature. We have a little chunk of love out here in Pennsylvania that we get to go for a walk with my dogs in the woods on occasion and as much as possible. But just touching the earth, the simple form of grounding, I think people aren't aware just how powerful it truly is. So that's one of the first things I like to turn people onto is
Hmm.
grounding. Even when you're meditating, if you can go out and touch the ground when you're doing it, you're going to have more powerful meditation. If you're doing it in the middle of the woods around all the trees, plants are conscious beings. Cleve Baxter taught that through his scientific methods, I think in the 70s, that they have a consciousness, that they react to us. That, I mean, one of the experiments he did, he found that if we prayed and told the plant what we were doing to it before we harvested it, we told the plant we were going to use it for nutrition, it would be more receptive and it would give you more nutrients. So that communication with nature is very important.
Yeah, I mean, you could just see that with people, the whole thing of talking to your plants to get them to grow better, you know?
Yeah.
Um, we did the Dr. Emoto rice experiment of speaking blessings or curses over a jar of rice with water in it. And for 30 days, speaking blessings on one and curses on the other, or just talking down to it, telling it it was not good, not, an accident, I hate you, those kind of words. And like we saw that the water that was in the jar with the rice responded and held the memory of the negative energy, and the um, rice started to wilt and the rot in the one that we were cursing. And
Yeah.
then the one that we were blessing, it just kind of seemed to ferment and seemed like you could probably still eat it. And it was a crazy experiment to see.
Yeah.
And, we hear that life and death is in the power of the tongue. That's the Bible. We know these things, but it's when we have some type of scientific proof, and there's a lot of people who have been experimenting with that, with a lot of the ancient truths that are in whatever holy book, because there's many that they're just echoing the same thing, just worded differently. So it's awesome when you can test your theory, and it's not just a theory; it's a fact, it's a truth.
Yeah. Well, Veda Austin does a lot of work with water and consciousness. I think her work really blows motos out of the water if you ever want to look into some of her work. Yeah. But, she said that her son really liked listening to heavy metal.
Mhm.
Stairway to Heaven was one of his favorite songs, but her son was always kind of hesitant. He said he felt like the water didn't like him because, Emoto's work proved that heavy metal caused chaos, and that we should steer clear of that. So they ended up playing Stairway to Heaven to the water, and she does a technique through freezing. So she puts it in the freezer afterwards for a little while, and she lets it partially thaw a little bit, but she holds it up to the window, and you can see the beautiful cymatic. Sometimes they're glyphs, hydroglyphs. Sometimes it's like a number 4, plain as day, or
Okay.
something. But
Yeah.
this every time, and they've done it numerous times, every time they play Stairway to Heaven, it's a beautiful stairway that's created in the ice. And so her son doesn't think the water hates him anymore. But her reasoning is that, whoever was doing the experiments, claiming that I guess, heavy metal music was kind of bad and caused chaos, they just didn't like heavy metal music, because science has already proven that too, that the person that's doing the experiment has a big effect on the outcome of the experiment as well. So we get people like that all the time with pyramid. They'll try a pyramid or something, they'll be like, oh, it doesn't work. Or they'll see my experiments with the plants, and the plants are growing like crazy, and oh, that's fake. But it's all about, everything is a tool, and it's all about how you're using that tool, and the tools are fueled by the intention that you have to use the tool. you know Intention is everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried some of it. I like the experiments. I'm not successful on a lot of them. As far as giving like provable stuff with the words, but again, it's just to try of the putting the crystals and salt and things like that and letting it dry and stuff. But yeah, I've seen her work on online, and There's a lot of people who are, and this info is coming back. And again, the beautiful thing is because we can experiment. But the thing is, if you experiment enough, you'll find out, you know, your thing that works and that you can prove, or at least prove it to you.
Yeah.
Um, I'm big on that, just being able to cite your sources of like, where does this, these downloads and epiphanies and information, where does it come from? It comes from somewhere. And I think it's a great honor when we can figure out where it comes from and mention their name and tell them thank you, if you will. Um, which I know we talked a lot about that on the episode we did together
Yeah.
uh, on my podcast. But it's a big deal, because this stuff is coming to us and it's not. I don't think any of it's new. It's just been, I won't say forgotten. We didn't just forget. Somebody
Hid it from
made
us.
it's a controlled effort so that you won't understand who you are and why you're here and what responds to you.
Exactly. That's what I tell people all the time. I mean, you can see all the different numerous ways that they're trying to hurt us. They're poisoning our water, they're poisoning our food, they're poisoning the air we breathe, the medicines that we take. I mean, the sounds that we listen to, the stuff that we watch on TV, everything is manipulated to keep us down, but we're still drudging on. And that
Mhm.
alone should show you how powerful we really are. And once we overcome those, break free from all the poisons, get ourselves clean, go back to clean food, clean water, connect with nature, and then start empowering ourselves with all these different tools, we would be unstoppable. We don't need um, anybody to protect us. We can do everything ourselves. I could imagine us flying around. That's just how powerful I really think that we are. But I'd like you to touch on some of the experiences that you've had with the psilocybin, and then some of your music as well, because I think those go kind of hand in hand. It's very enchanting, your music as well. And I've have taken mushrooms a couple different times, and it was a very spiritual experience for me. One, I was drawn to a catalpa tree, and I didn't know why, a catalpa tree that was in my yard. And I could see us just everybody intertwined in a fabric weave. It was just so empowering. And then the next day, I did some research on the catalpa tree, and the catalpa tree is one of the highest frequency trees that they actually make um, musical instruments out of, because it resonates at such a high vibration. So it was really interesting, the messages that you receive and how you can decipher them even after the experience, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful experience if you let it. Psilocybin, my introduction, it was a, you know, plant medicine, and my relationship with it was a healthy look at my life through the eyes of love. It's a reevaluation because we're hard on ourselves
Mhm.
and we get stuck in ruts and in cycles and circles over and over. And, going into it to be to ask questions and to look for help. And that's the intention and to honor. And we did that and we found it. I found God, if you will, giving me a game plan about what I was supposed to do and not just what I was supposed to do, but how to do it. And I would try to make up excuses like in the moment as you're almost like doing this life review about where you're going and let's get clear on some things. And I'd make excuses up, well, why I couldn't do it. And but when I would do that, like the voice would qualify me. Like as I would disqualify myself, oh yeah, I'm not good enough. Oh yeah, my voice isn't good enough to do guided meditations. I'm a rapper. It does good for rapping. I sound, like I'm from the streets and stuff like that. And so how's that gonna sound? That's not gonna be a good meditation. And it's like, no, like God is like communicating with me, like, you got this. No, you're gonna do this. And, I'm going to use you as a healer. You can be a healer. And it's like, oh, I would love to be a healer, but I could never see myself doing it. It's like, no, no, no. You already are a healer. it's like this friend, like speaking to my conscience as I'm trying to tell it to shut up. The ego, but the ego is like working with you.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm
There to
I'm
protect
trained
you, I
on how
think.
to not take a compliment or to disqualify myself because I've been disqualified my whole life, right? So
Mhm.
when it comes to this, what's different, but it was like a voice of love and a voice of reason to look at your life objectively through the eyes of love. And it is such a spiritual experience because you know, at some point it feels like it has an intelligence and it you know, has names and we can go into angelic, you know, encounters and angelic names, if you will, with the different strands or types of mushrooms that are here to ultimately help you. And if the helping is just getting you to ask deeper questions, because at the end of the day, that's where all the answers lie in the next question. Ask better questions. You know, that's how you get better answers. Keep asking questions. And I learned that from Christ in the Bible, but also in my life and through psilocybin. You ask the questions, you start the dialogue, and the answers come when you're ready. And there's a lot of things we want to know that we're not ready and we can't handle. You can't handle the truth. I want the truth. You can't handle. You think you can, you can't. So you have to be stretched in a way to show that you're ready for the next grade. The kindergartner's not ready for fourth grade. I know they think they are. I know they can't wait to get there and go
Yeah.
to, you know, try out for the basketball team for middle school and all this kind of stuff. No, you're not ready. You think you are, but patience, enjoy kindergarten, you know. That's the message.
And I really think the honor portion of it is key as well. You know, when I took the psilocybin, I had a tea and I just made it into a tea and sat inside my meditation pyramid for a little while, blessing it, you know, communicating with it on the experiences that I wanted to have, you know, or some questions that I had that needed answered. And yeah, it was a great experience. And there's so many people that are struggling with mental
Yeah.
issues, mental health, especially nowadays after the past couple years. And this type of product can really help them. It can really help them overcome that. And they're showing a lot of that scientifically that it's helping them,
Yep.
you
Yeah,
know?
we've stepped into microdosing from time to time as well. And it definitely helps you work out, you know, the things that you need help working out on a small level, on a like in your day to day, not to go in and have like a one big time epiphany of some kind of a heroic type dose or whatever, but in your day to day, how to manage um, stress, hurt, trauma in the day to day. And all of it's kind of shifting you to the path that you're supposed to be on. And it's got something to show you. So, you know, I'm definitely for it, but you know, definitely I would say consult a physician. I don't know if that's a
Yeah.
thing, but you know, yet it should be because,
Yeah.
you know, I think that you need to do your research too, because there's a lot of um, you know, nuances and things that it can amplify that people aren't ready to deal with.
Yeah.
And that's where you get a so-called bad trip, you know, or these bad feel. It's uncomfortable. It's scary,
But
you
those
know,
are usually the most healing ones as well.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Um,
Luckily, I haven't had one of those yet, but I hear a lot of horror stories about it. And it kind of scares people away from things like that, you know. But like ayahuasca, you know, I've never had ayahuasca, but I heard about, you know, that's one of the most powerful ones, and those really bring up the negative things and that are trapped inside you that need to come out, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I had my first um ceremony in
Did you?
sitting with ayahuasca in December. Me and my wife traveled to Texas to a retreat center there. We didn't plan on it. I thought I was going there to do music. They wanted me to come and do music and perform at I was like, what do you perform at I that's kind of doesn't seem like it goes together, but they listen to my music part of their ceremony, like when they're doing their integration. It's like a 4 day ceremony, but 2 nights is the ayahuasca, but then they, you know, start the programming and the integration and walking it out, and they used the songs for healing.
Oh,
And they
wow.
reached
That's
out to
awesome.
me and told me and shared their experiences and asked me if I would come. And I didn't want to do ayahuasca. I was scared.
Yeah.
Scared that it's like the big one because my psilocybin experiences felt like what people describe ayahuasca. So I don't want something stronger, something so, unless it calls me. And so I am a big proponent of that. Like if it calls you, you have to do it.
Hmm.
And I didn't feel like, I was going to do it. And I had to open door to say, hey, if you want to sit with us and partake of the medicine and sit with Aya, you can. And it was like, no, we're not going to do it, but we're going to come sit with you guys and help and assist and then, do music and stuff. And while we were there, just the whole environment was just beautiful. The energy of the retreat center, the people, everybody coming to receive healing who were a part of it. It was just a beautiful energy. And me and my wife were like, we'll sit and we'll just take a little sip just to say hello, sit with you guys and just, oh yeah, that's fine if you guys just want to do that. So we did that.
They already knew that you were going
They did.
to.
They did. I didn't. I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, it's funny. I'm like, I'm coming to help you guys, and then I was the one receiving help.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were doing the whole ceremony with them and I did 3 cups and it was very profound. Um yeah, heavy but beautiful and healing to allow you because if we're a people that champion healing and want healing, which I think anybody listening to this podcast you know, they're in there, then you're ready for things to get a little bit uncomfortable because comfort is what pushed you into that position to begin with.
Hmm.
And whatever it takes to find healing and wholeness and love and you know, I, it was beautiful. I got everything I needed and my wife, she experienced so much breakthrough and through the ayahuasca ceremony was profound for her, but 2 weeks before that, or a week and a half before that, we did a retreat. I host retreats, and she just found her breakthrough with cacao ceremony and breath work. But being intentional and going in and just, man, it just unlocked something in her that allowed her to push through some barriers and get uncomfortable. And yeah, she's just experienced tremendous breakthrough and revival in her heart, in her body and spirit, and we have as a couple. And so yeah, it's about doing the inner work. And again, with the tools thing, there's 2 more things you bring into the tool arsenal. I would never want to, like, I really like the fact that we don't have to go out and have a cacao ceremony every weekend
Hmm.
or every day, or even like you said, burn sage every day or something. Like reserve it for, hey, we need help. Pick your team. And I really love that fact, that there's just so much that's out there willing to help us and work with us if we'll just let it.
Yeah. I saw that Arian had came out with her first book.
Hmm.
So that's awesome as well. Beautiful pictures. And I just saw that video before we came on today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I am. I love macro photography. I'm sure she and I would resonate. I love nature. I'm always taking pictures of mushrooms and
Yeah.
snails and all.
Yeah. And her job was in the forest for 15 years and she was just collecting, come home with, a new picture every day and put it
Yeah,
in a folder. And now she's stepping away to step in helping me full time. And it's like the gift back,
yeah,
to the people. And, just a beautiful way to commemorate her time there and make this huge collage book of all these really cool images and you know, writings and little meditations and stuff that she put in there. It's really, really thoughtful, really cool.
yeah. That's awesome. Why don't you let everybody know how they can find you? And are you having another retreat coming up soon? How
Yeah,
did your
we're
retreat
in,
go? And
we're in talks right now. We don't have anything official, but we're in talks about, when and where. So yeah, if they want to get involved with anything that we have going on, or my podcast, my music, all that cool stuff, get updated on any retreats, they can go to the website, truthseekah.com, truth, SEEKAH.com, or seer.school. Real easy. Seer.school is our online community in our training program that we do. And that's what my wife is really helping me with, that and a bunch of the stuff behind the scenes. So we're just super excited about getting a lot of this material out and helping people, showing them practical ways that they can dive in with all this stuff we've been talking about since we started this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, Derek, you're such a blessing to the world. And I definitely want to experience one of your retreats soon. And I may have an event that you might be interested in as well.
Yeah,
So,
let's talk.
yeah, for sure. But thank you so much for coming on the Alter Ether. I'm sure everybody will love this interview and love you and be reconnecting with you as well.
All right. Thank you so much.